It's an NFC showdown with playoff hopes on the line as the Rams take on the Saints in the Superdome. Interim head coach Darren Rizzi has led New Orleans to 2 straight wins. With the home team coming off a bye, the Saints are locked in on victory number 3. A later kick means the players will be more than hyped to take the field, and the fans, well, they've had more time to pregame for the main event. Welcome into Saints Game Day Live here on NewOrleansSaints.com alongside John DeShazer. I'm Erin Summers. JD, it has been a fun week, Thanksgiving. What should we be thankful for as Saints fans right now?
We should be thankful that the Saints seem to be trending in the right direction, if that's what we're looking for. They've played 2 spirited games, a lot more energy, and you can have energy, but you better have enough execution to make it work, and they've been able to do that.
I am definitely thankful for the last 2 wins that we've had here. Looking to go for number 3. Offensively, the Saints have averaged 27.5 points over the last 2, over 450 yards. What can they improve on, though?
Well, what they need to be better at is second half execution. Now, they did have a lot of fourth quarter execution against Cleveland, 21 points. Now, one of those was a short drive because it was set up by a long punt return. But still, they want to be more efficient in the second half because they've been really strong in the first half in terms of moving the ball and scoring, but they need to be a little bit more efficient in that area. And I think you do that by being better in the red zone. They can be better in the red zone now. A couple touchdowns they scored against Cleveland were Taysom Hill long runs. So you kind of mitigate that and you take it where you can get it, and a long touchdown by Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So 3 touchdowns had nothing to do with the red zone, but when you are in the red zone, you need to be able to produce touchdowns in the red zone.
Taysom Hill made it into the end zone 3 times himself. He had a very productive day against the Browns. Going up against this Rams defense, they're 28th in the league against the run. How can the Saints take advantage of that?
Well, if you watched what Philly did against them, and I'm sure the Saints did, then you try to mimic, if I can get the words out, what Philly did. Of course, that's easier said than done because the Saints don't have Saquon Barkley, but they do have Taysom Hill. They do have Alvin Kamara. So there are some things they should be able to do effectively against that Rams run defense. I know they didn't want to discredit that deep run defense this week, and yet you know where they are in the standings and you know exactly what's happened against them. When you give up 314 rushing yards in your previous game, there are some holes to be addressed.
Yeah,
and
that was just on the ground.
That was just on the ground.
To be specific.
314, and Saquon Barkley had 255 of those.
Yeah.
So if you're the Saints, you are kind of chomping at the bit because you know there's an opportunity to get something going on the ground.
Without center Eric McCoy in this one for the Saints, he is the one who anchors that offensive line. What has to be top of mind for the line to be productive?
Well, the interior has to be productive, and that means Shane Lemieux is going to step in at center, and they're going to have to be productive between he and Cesar Ruiz, and whether it be Landon Young or whoever's at left guard. They're going to have to be productive because you can get to the edges, but you really do your work in the middle, in between the tackles. So hopefully that unit has had enough time without Eric McCoy. And unfortunately, this team did not win a game without Eric McCoy.
Yeah.
And now Eric McCoy is out. So hopefully they've had enough time to gel in his absence.
Well, we're hoping that the momentum continues for this team, and you had a chance to talk to the guy at the top of all of it, and interim head coach Darren Rizzi this week on his thoughts against the Rams.
Coach, what are some of the concerns that is coming off the bye week that, you get into a rhythm and then you have a break?
Yeah, it's always a concern. We felt like we had a good thing going there for a couple of weeks. So just kind of get the guys refocused. We brought them back in here a little earlier and started the practice week a little bit earlier than we normally would, a day earlier. And so I thought that was good. Kind of shake the rust off from the vacation. But, at this point, when you have a late bye, I think everybody kind of needs the downtime. So that part was good. But then we're in a holiday week. That's another concern. So really just trying to eliminate the distractions and keep the focus on this game against the Rams.
Your quarterback, Derek Carr, says he's playing as well as he ever has in the NFL. What have you noticed about his play lately?
Yeah, I just seen a guy that's showing his maturity, showing his experience. When you look at kind of his second half of the year last year, and then the times, obviously he had the little blip in the road this year with the injury, but listen, the times he's been in there, and when he plays consistent football for us, obviously the result kind of takes care of itself. So the last 2 weeks, I've seen him distributing the ball to a bunch of different people. I see him being a leader with a lot of the younger players and really understanding the game plan. He wanted to fix a few things in his game, and he's really done that. And so I see a guy that's, like you said, kind of at a peak right now.
Taysom Hill, NFC Offensive Player of the Week, but how do you walk the fine line with him between just enough use and not overuse?
I think it's important. I think you got to sprinkle him in as best you can. I think what you have to try to do is distribute his touches throughout the game, knowing that he's going to be alive the whole game and not trying to get too many in a row or consecutive touches, things like that. Him being on the field without the ball is a big deal for us too. So, just having him out there in different positions opens up a lot of different things. So I think we've been smart with his targets and his touches. I think we got to continue to do that.
Difficult opponent coming in with the Rams, Hall of Fame quarterback. Offensively, what have you seen from that team?
Yeah, listen, they're a well-oiled machine. They got a lot of great pieces between the run game and the pass game. I think eliminating the explosive plays is really a big deal. I think trying to get them into some third and longer situations is really a big deal. Their first and second down efficiency, I think, is as good as anybody. They do a lot of window dressings with the shifts and the motions. It's going to be important for us to keep our eyes in the right place because when Stafford has open guys, he's going to hit them. And then we got to do a great job of getting them on the ground when they catch the ball.
They've got a young defense. What have you seen from that unit?
Oh, man, really athletic front four. I think they've done a great job drafting that position up front the last couple of years. Just, you put the film on, it's one guy after another making plays for them, especially those first and second year guys that they have. And so we got to do a good job as well on first and second down efficiency because they've done a really good job. If they can pin their ears back and get after the passer, that's where they're at their best.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
You got it.
Eliminating those explosive plays has been a big focus for the Saints defensively today against the Rams. Quarterback Matthew Stafford, wide receivers Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. What does the Saints defense have to do to eliminate some of the big pass plays?
Well, the best way to do that is to get to the quarterback. He was sacked 5 times against Philly, Matthew Stafford. So hopefully the Saints are able to get to the quarterback. Been able to do that with Brian Brzee and Carl Granderson, and Chase Young is coming on lately. And so hopefully that is the way you mitigate that because if he's got time, you can only cover for so long. And the Saints are working with, even though Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry are the starters and they played a lot of snaps, but these are wily receivers. The Rams run a lot of motion at you so they confuse you. And as Alontae Taylor said, last year his eyes weren't good. Hopefully he's learned from that. Now he was playing the slot last year instead of the outside. But hopefully he's learned from that. If he hadn't learned from it, Ugo Amadi, who's in the slot this year, needs to have learned from it. But you have to be disciplined against these guys in the secondary. But the best way to do it, get to Matthew Stafford, get him on the ground, and that way he can't throw it to his receivers.
Defensive line, they've had 6 sacks in the last 2 games, so definitely seeing some more production up front. Is that where it starts to stop the run game here too?
Well, absolutely. I mean, because you slow it down, you play the run on the way to the quarterback, and if you can do that, then you should be successful. Now, you have to maintain your gap integrity, whether or not you get to the running back, because that's where Demario Davis and Pete Werner come and clean things up for you. So you have to maintain your integrity. When a guy is out of sync, out of position, when he's not filling his gap, not filling his lane, that's where the big plays come, because you lose your integrity, you lose your discipline, and that's where the big plays come. So you got to maintain your integrity and your discipline, and hopefully you can slow down that run game. Saints only gave up 66 running yards against Cleveland, so looks like they're heading in the right direction. But the week before that, gave up 180 to the Falcons, so hopefully this is something they've rectified.
Something that we haven't seen in a while is a Saints takeaway.
Yeah, and that's, you'll take the wins. You'd love for it to be blowouts, and certainly you'd like to see some takeaways. Now, had a chance to get a couple off Jameis Winston and didn't come up with the football. That's when Demario Davis said he needed to order 2 hands off Amazon. So hopefully, if you get that opportunity against Matthew Stafford, you come down with the ball, because this is an offense that you can waste defensive opportunities against. If you get your hands on the ball, you better come down with it, because you don't want to give them extra downs.
Yeah, this was definitely going to be a battle. The Saints defense has 15 takeaways, the Rams offense 12 takeaways. So they're right around the same as far as giving it up and getting it in return. If you are coming to the game, again, it is a 3:05 kick, a little bit later. You can watch it on Fox, but if you're here in the Dome, make sure you download the Saints app presented by Verizon. You can click over to Dome mode. When you do that, you want to log in to your account, and then you can follow all of the big highlights, big plays that these players make on the field today right there, and help you navigate this newly renovated Caesars Superdome. It's beautiful in here, and we hope that you are joining us today, and make sure you are logged in to that app, and you can get all of the info that you need to know. Special teams wise, things have been a little bit weird inside the Superdome lately. Doesn't seem like opposing kickers can hit anything.
Yeah, they've missed, I believe, 5 field goals in the previous 2 games. So that is something that you hope works in the Saints' favor, and what should work in their favor. The Rams kicker's already missed 5 field goals this season. He's missed a field goal attempt in each of the previous 3 games. So he is not on the best roll
Yeah.
of his career. Hopefully that's something that will work in the Saints' favor, because you don't want the game to have to come down to that. But if it does have to come down to that, you want it to be with a shaky kicker who comes in with probably not the best confidence in the world.
Yeah, Joshua Carty actually got called out by his head coach, Sean McVay, earlier this week about his inefficiency in the kicking game. So we'll see how that one plays out. In the receiving game, Dante Pettis, again, elevated from the practice squad to the active roster. You need somebody back there returning kicks, and he's done a pretty good job.
Had a 53-yard punt return that would have been a touchdown, but he stepped out of bounds, unfortunately, but it led to a touchdown. So he seems to be the guy who has taken the mantle of that. And the Saints have tried several guys returning punts since Rashid Shaheed was injured. But Dante Pettis not only has the hands for it, but he seems to have the speed for it, and he understands how to read those blocking lanes and everything in the punt return game. So maybe they found one. Hopefully he is the guy that can handle that duty the rest of the season and be productive.
Also elevated from the practice squad was another wide receiver in Kevin Austin Jr. So he is also going to be available to help out. I'm taking a look at the list of inactives. We talked about center Eric McCoy not being able to go in this one. Also guard Lucas Patrick, something that we've unfortunately dealt with quite often with the offensive line. But there are a couple players that are not listed there, and one of them is running back Jamal Williams. Can he get himself going today?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily think that or know that, because you got a healthy Taysom Hill and you got a healthy Alvin Kamara. Now, there are going to be carries for Jamal Williams, but it won't be a whole lot of them unless one of those two front guys gets injured. And Taysom Hill's coming off a 7-carry, 138-yard game where he was fantastic with the 3 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara has had a week to be able to rest his body and get it back together because he's a little banged up. So hopefully, in a perfect world, you won't need Jamal Williams, because that'll mean production out of the first 2 guys, I believe.
I mean, Rizzi did say they're going to continue to put Taysom Hill in a lot of different positions, not run him into the ground at any one, but definitely use him quite often. Tano Passanio not playing today, but he has been back on the practice field, so that is a good sign as he's working back from that Achilles injury in the offseason. And then Foster Moreau, the tight end that was limited all week at practice, is able to go as well. And the tight ends definitely got a lot of play in our last game against the Browns.
He and Juwan Johnson have been really productive when they've gotten the opportunities. Hadn't gotten a ton of opportunities, but they've been able to catch and been able to get deep in the secondary, and those things loosen up the defense. So hopefully he is healthy enough. He is healthy enough to play, but hopefully he's healthy enough to produce and be productive, because those guys have been able to be outlets for Derek Carr, and it's proven to be good for this offense.
All right, we got to keep this thing rolling, get the 3rd straight win here in the Superdome under interim head coach Darren Rizzi. So it's 3:05 kick. Don't forget, it's a little bit later. But, you know, we're looking for a fun game and another victory here today, JD.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints are looking for another 1-0 week. They don't want to look macro, they want to look micro, so they're taking each week 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. So get to another 1-0 and see where the chips fall after you stack all the 1-0s that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for John DeShazer, I'm Aaron Summers. Thanks for joining us on the Saints pregame show. He'll be back with you after the game on NewOrleansSaints.com alongside Scott Shanley to break down what we hope is another victory here for the Saints.